welcome back to Two Girls, One Pod. This is the episode where we do have two girls. I'm one of them, as yours. Our other one is someone that you may not have heard of before, but I'm really glad that she accepted my invitation to come and record an episode with me. Her name is Kath Ebbs, E-B-B-S. As you'll see, we just get straight into this conversation. Like we just, you know, when you meet someone that you've spoken to a few times on socials and then you meet them in real life and it's like you've just picked up a conversation that you've been having for years. Well, you'll see that. You'll hear that. You'll feel that as well in us. It's like we've always known each other. She reminds me a lot of me when I was younger, like even to look at, like I just think she's stunning the way I was stunning, and she'll be stunning the way I am stunning later in life. But she's a really warm, beautiful person, and I was just really rapt to have her come in and give me some of that sunshine, like because being around her, it was very warm. Like you feel this warmth. There's just an energy about her. I mean, most of the people we have on this pod seem to bring that warmth, don't they? Maybe it's them being in our presence, Rachael. I think it's a bit of both. Let me tell you a bit about her first. She's a queer actor, a writer, a DJ and a content creator. She also has her own podcast, which we talk about at the end. She focuses on visibility and advocacy with storytelling at its heart. And I think you'll get that once you start listening to the conversation. So enjoy, listen. No, don't enjoy, listen. Just enjoy. And let me know what you think if you have any thoughts about it. Here she is, Kath Ebbs. I'm so glad to have you here, Kath. Thank you so much for coming in.
Out of your accepting my lateness.
Make it lateness, schmateness. Everyone's late these days. You know I'm an early person. But that was the way I was brought up.
I think that's why I was like, this is not good, because I could feel it. I was like, you're someone that's on time. Like,
yeah, I'm not on time. I'm early. I had two Virgo parents. So I had the neatest house, and we used to sit out the front of places and wait for the time. So then we'd all get out of the car together and be the first ones there. And we would always be across the road just waiting early. So it's
that's a skill.
I wouldn't be like that. But and we have these other friends that I grew up with, and we ended up, there was like, you know, have your parent, you hang out with all your parents' friends and, all the kids go off. We knew, like, because we would listen to all the parents having talks and everything, and we had these one couple, they were always late. When the time started, that's when they'd start getting ready. But so everyone in the group told them an hour later time. No, an hour earlier time, and they'd always be on time. They never knew.
See, this is actually interesting on that. So I actually said to my friends and like people I work with, like, tell me the wrong time.
Yes.
But then one time I brought it up, this is so random, in couples therapy. And I was like, you know, because like I'm always late, so like blah, blah, blah. And the therapist was like, but you're making it other people's problem. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, you're now making it like your partner's problem, like it was my ex, but like at the time, your partner's problem, like your lateness they have to make up a new time rather than you sorting out your lateness.
Yes.
Like so true. So true.
But I find that, I used to give people a really hard time about being late, and more recently, say in the last 5 years, the ADHD things have come out, and it's a massive ADHD symptom.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? A symptom?
It'd be a symptom of ADHD.
So I've
your
now
concept
feel
of time
really bad of saying, you're wasting my time. I'm waiting for you. Like it's, you know, it used to offend me, like to the point of rejection, where I'd be sitting going, this person knows that I'm now sitting here all by myself waiting, and my feelings would start to get hurt. But once I started to realise that it was an ADHD thing, I was like, I can have a lot more understanding and forgiveness of that, like because they actually are harder on themselves than they are going to be to me. Other people are just
Yeah, period. Because you know what it is? Because for me, I get so upset because I'm like today when I was driving here, I was like, how the did I let this happen? Like, how did I let this happen? Like, hot shame. And to be fair, it was like my 2024. I was like, we're sorting this out. Like, I'm putting things in place to like not be late. And I've actually been really good at it. So I'm so sorry that I let you down today as someone who is on time or early, I should say.
You. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for making the effort to be on time when it's something that you have to battle with, because I know that I could see you send me a voice message and you were like, I am so embarrassed. And it's so funny because the amount of, I come from a generation where we don't text, obviously, nearly as much as your generation does. And the hilarity for me is because Angie and I used to go through this all the time. I would be like, if you stop texting, you'll actually be there on time. Like, if you just put your phone down and go with your focus, you'll actually never be late for another thing again. But it can't happen. It can't be done. It's true. It can't be done because it's so – and I know what that's like. I'm on my phone constantly now as well, but I've taken myself into that world and I've – adopted it and and that's why I can completely understand can't put my phone down. I've got to tell people that I am on my way or I am, making an apology for being late when the apology removed would put me there on time. But it's all living and learning as far as I'm concerned, isn't it?
I'm working on it, purposely working on it.
Isn't that funny? We just had the biggest conversation about time
management. But it's so many people really struggle with it. Because that's the thing, people that are late without, there's some people that goes right over their head, which is they're just but a lot of people, it's a real.
You know what I meant with the thing? Is that there's some people that will do it on purpose because it's a control thing and it's often a narcissistic trait. They know that you're sitting there waiting and they have control of you. Yeah. And you can't do anything about it because you have to wait till they get there. And they are like, oh, so sorry, but some people don't even say sorry. They're just like,
that's what I mean. Me. The people that don't acknowledge it.
Yes,
but then it's other people I've had so many conversations with friends about the ones that get it, and usually us ADHD girly pops, just being it's so embarrassing. I get so nervous to the point where I for a bit last year just stopped making plans because I was I'm so sick of letting people down. Yeah. I'm just not going to make plans.
Yeah. Well, and that's just cutting your nose off to spite your face because you're not having any fun.
Yeah.
But I totally get that because I'm that person too. Yeah. I just I throw my toys out and go, no, well, I just don't want to do anything.
I don't want to let people down. Yeah. Yeah, it's fully that. It's then that in 2024 energy for me is no catastrophizing. I was catastrophizing in the car and I was like, it's okay. There's a lesson in this. There's a learning in this. You're not going to do it again. Take the information, apologise. Yeah, this is why it was meant to happen.
And there are people listening who are totally relating right now.
Hopefully feel seen and heard. I see and I hear you.
We see you. We hear. Well, we can't see you, but we can't hear you either. You know what? We know you're there.
Yeah.
And thank you for being there. Kath Ebbs.
Yes.
I've never met you before, but I've followed you for quite a while.
I feel we know each other. It's so weird.
It's so Instagram does that. And I love that about Instagram, how completely intimate you can get with someone without ever touching them, which is a really interesting thing, I think, in today's day and age, because there are certain people that don't like to be touched physically. True. And I think that Instagram has allowed us to be really intimate in that sense, that when you do meet someone, if they're up for a hug, wonderful, but if they're not, that's fine as well. It doesn't change the relationship. So you really feel like you get to know someone, I think, better. It's like the old-fashioned dating where, online dating used to have to just talk to each other all the time before meeting, which I'm not a huge fan of because I'm all about, as far as dating goes, chemistry.
Yeah.
Like looking across a pub or a party or a dinner party.
That's how I've met anyone. It's just when you see someone, you're like, I don't know what it is, but that person's got the thing.
And smell.
Yeah. It's pheromones. It's also just chemistry. You just can't
simple chemistry.
And I feel chemistry like that, real authentic chemistry. I have this theory that if you're feeling it on that level, the other person is feeling it. Chemistry that can only work if it's two people.
Well, that's what all stalkers say.
So true. That's why I use the word authentic.
Agree.
Okay,
I totally agree.
Authentic chemistry, real chemistry.
Because you can almost see sparks, can't you? You can feel them.
Yeah.
Between that's an energy of vibration that you're like, oh my God, my hairs are up on my arms.
But it happens with friendship as well. Some people even when we hugged before walking in here, I was like, I know you. It's I believe in past life, so I'm really weird. Some people I'm oh, this is and there's other people you meet and you're like, we know each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Souls.
Yeah.
Well, souls have been around for a very long time. And it's funny when you meet a younger or an older person and you know immediately, oh, we've met before. Or we've been out before, we've had entire relationships before. Wouldn't that be amazing to know?
To know.
Have you ever done regression therapy?
Not in a past life way, no. Which is ridiculous for someone who like heavily believes in it. Like for me, I'm such a spiritual person. Yeah. Like I know instantly when I meet someone whether I've known them before or not, and how deep that goes. Like romantic or platonic. Like there's some relationships I've had where we've done this so many times, and there's others where I'm like, nah, this is like fully our first rodeo.
Wow. Oh, you must do regression. You know, it's hard to find a really good
one. That's person. The thing. You need a good like rec.
There is a good person here in Victoria, but I do believe she's gone to live in Egypt. So because she's just so in the realm of, you know, I think she was taking people for treks to Egypt and things like that.
Oh, wow.
And then, I don't know, so all of that stuff. Now.
Talk to me.
This morning we got this app's not going to come out for a little bit, but so it might be old news, and that's fine because we're just discussing it. However, whenever it happened,
there's a lot under it.
There is a lot under it. That's right.
Yeah, so it'll be relevant, and it's unfortunately for a long time.
Exactly, it's always going to be relevant, and there's going to be a lot more relevancy in between this conversation and this being published. The Academy Awards this morning nominated Ryan Gosling for Best Actor.
Best supporting.
And America Ferrero for Best Supporting Actor.
She's good.
But no Margot Robbie for Best Actor or Greta Gerwig for Best Director. Talk to me. How did that make you feel?
I genuinely, even up until now, because it's like I only got this news when I woke up early, so that would have been 5 hours ago, and I'm literally still waiting for someone, like I'm still waiting for like, got ya. That was just a bit.
Ashton to come in.
Like genuinely, I'm like, is this press? Like, they're about to be like, no, that was really satire of us, and like, here you go. Because if not, I'm going, wait, you literally just like proved the point of the movie as well.
Is this not just playing the movie out of the point of what they said?
Yeah, and it's just so like for me as well. What's disheartening about it is like it's level one, like half a level of level one of feminism. Like it's like baby feminism, the most like palatable, pop culturist, fun, silly thing. Even Margot Robbie, like she's like, you know, moves around in so much privilege as a woman, and like we can't even be like, slay that one. It's like we can't even do that. Like I'm freaked. I'm spooked. I'm absolutely spooked.
Yes.
And honestly, I'm like, and I'm not big on like cancelling things. Like I'm really not. I'm like, no, nuanced chat. I'm going cancel the Oscars. Like I'm going, or not even cancel the Oscars. I'm going, we need to completely like the whoever is making those decisions, get them out. This is it's insane to me, like that, and also just proves again the whole point of the movie. But like that, Margot Robbie could also like to get this movie off the ground was such a feat. Like everyone was like, no one will care. It's like the Stanley Cup thing where everyone was like, you know, Stanley Cups.
No.
So you know what I'm about to say, yeah. So Stanley Cups Stanley is a brand of like how would you describe like a outdoors? Outdoors like bottle. Yeah. Been around for like when I say a very, very long time, like something absurd, like a long time.
Oh, okay.
But it was always catered to like tradies. Like their market was fully like men who work, men that go camping.
That you can't break.
Yeah, literally. I mean, they actually where. There's two prongs to this story, but one of them was like there was this TikTok that went viral where a Stanley Cup was in a car that had been set on fire. Everything was the Stanley Cup was still there.
Still going.
Opened it. The water was still refreshing and cold.
That's not
not great marketing. So they had that moment. So everyone was like, wow, like, let's get on the Stanley. And then someone somewhere along the line in their marketing team was like, guys, there's a whole market of women you're missing out on. If we like make feminine, like cater to like a feminine market, we'll just like, you know, it would be good for the brand. We can broaden our
demo. Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. They went from like I'm going to put this as like, I'm rounding here, like something absurd. Like, do you know the exact numbers? It's like $70 million profit.
Business, yeah.
Yeah. So like profit, 750 million, like in a year. And like they've gone crazy. People line up
to women.
People literally line up all night long to get like limited edition Stanley Cups. Like it's gone crazy. Look up Stanley Cups in your TikTok algorithm and you'll be like, what the
Okay.
And it's the Barbie thing. It's like we don't like we are such an untapped market. Like we will watch things, we will buy things, we will get obsessed with things. We will have interesting conversations about things.
Yes.
We will give you free press about things. Like we will it up. Don't forget that we exist.
Yes.
Like and that was literally the Barbie thing. They're like, no one will care about like women, and we're going.
And it was the biggest grossing film. That and Oppenheimer, and they called it Barbenheimer, which really pissed me off that they just blended the two together.
Yeah.
It so stands out on its own for what it is, and it will be remembered as the movie of that year, not Oppenheimer. I'm
Not
sorry,
at all.
even though Oppenheimer's winning all the things. Why?
Because
that's
film
the
buffs
status
just
quo.
want to pretend like they're like, oh yeah, it's just like, you know, artsy and like this is. I'm like, shut up.
It's not. There's just so much politicalness about it. And the Academy Awards, they've always shat me because the lead up to both the Emmys and the Academy Awards. Now, the Emmys and Academy Awards are your two tiers, right? And your Tonys. Like you've got your TV, your stage, your movies. There is your top tier. And I hate that everything leading up to it gives you a false sense of security of how it's going to happen.
It's all a popularity contest.
Which is really awful.
It's so unwell, and it's so not
really,
like.
And that's why they say you have to campaign. You go on the campaign trail to win your Oscar because you have to make those same people then vote for you because they've nominated you. So now I need your vote.
But the whole thing's rigged.
It is.
It should be the power to the people. I'll tell you what movie I liked the most of the year. Like
And that should be the highest.
Yeah.
Not the actors voting actors because that's a wank.
That's
like,
just that's playground shit.
Well,
like
that's
we're just
almost
in school.
incestuous.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be the People's Choice Award. It should be that's the award. What we choose. You know, this is what I was saying just before we started recording. I said to Kath, you give me hope. Just like Layla, even though I got ceremoniously told, no, it's Leia by my Star Wars nerdy producer. She says right in the beginning where she's a little, what do you call those? Where she was a little hologram. Obi-Wan Kenobi, you give me hope. Or you are my hope. You're our last hope. You're our last hope.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
I have this thing where, because I've never had children and I've never been married, I feel like I don't really fit around my group of peers because I haven't gone through the same things that they've gone, and I don't look at young people the same way of a divide or that kind of closeness where I've reared this child, so now I really don't want to talk to them about sex. Like, like it's really uncomfortable for me, which is a lot of my friends.
Which is wild. That's a whole other discussion we could have.
That a lot of parents or kids, they're like, I'm not going to you about that one, no, Mum. But so because I've never had that, you've always just been peers to me. You just get younger and younger. And I just absolutely get so blown away by the hope that I get every time I meet a younger person that has passion and has fire in their pants or has, like I said, a text to you, maintain the rage. Like you're like, I'm raging this morning about the Oscar. I'm like, maintain that rage because I'm depending on it. Like as a 51-year-old woman who is at that point when you get to a part of your life where you've seen so many things and you've been disappointed so many times, you've lost hope. Even though it's still there, but you've become this cynical old bitch who just goes, well, I know what reality is.
Yeah.
But then I see people like you and I'm like, yes. And I get this little fire in my belly that ignites and I think, oh, yes, I just love the youth. I love that, the ones like you who do care. The majority of you do. And that's a big difference between my generation. We were just walking around scratching our asses and bumping into things most of the time. And just, we were all into sex and drugs and rock and roll but that was it.
Yeah.
Politics, that was for our parents.
Yeah,
we did not give a shit. We mostly didn't vote. A lot of people donkey voted because that was just dumb.
Yeah.
It wasn't until a friend of mine told me off. Well, I was about 28 and he said we were at dinner one night and I said, they're all the same. I couldn't give a shit. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I just will vote for Labor because that's what my parents did. And he went to town on my ass and I I now have usurped him as far as politics goes. He comes to me for politics news and trends or whatever's because he can't keep
I
up
love
anymore.
your page on Instagram so
thank
much.
you.
Because also the same thing, I feel like you, like in a way you kind of give me hope because sometimes like, you know what I mean? Like when I see you and even
That
like
you'll still
Clem
be
and
there,
stuff like
yeah.
that, like I'm like, yeah, like we're all in this together because we can't do it alone. And sometimes
That's
it's
it.
so hard to communicate. Even just like, do you know what I mean? Like there is that kind of, it's not a gap. I don't feel it between us, but like,
But it's a physical...
in the zeitgeist there is.
It's an age gap.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's frustrating sometimes. Like there's people that I like working in the media that I respect so highly and then they still sometimes talk to me in this like condescending kind of way, which like in certain circumstances, if you're older, you can be condescending. That's fine. I don't know shit compared. But like when it comes to things like what we're talking about, like it grinds my gears and it makes me lose hope, to be honest, because I'm like, am I just in this like little like echo chamber of like young like 20-year-olds and that like we think activism is cool and
I
like
think the
we
same.
think
Yeah.
and I'm like this is like
talking in a vacuum
and I'm
here.
going like and then I see people like Clem and like you and I'm like no, there's a lot of us.
But you would be like me. It would be you get those DMs of someone saying, you've really helped me see something that I hadn't understood or I hadn't seen before or I'm now really interested in. And that was you. Thank you for doing that. I do everything for those to get just one person to say, oh, wow, I did not know that I could go to my doctor and ask for this or I could go, and blah, blah, blah. I've just left my husband because, you told me you give me permission to do so. Every now and then I give permission. I whisper into the microphone. And today is one of those days.
Let's do it.
Today,
You can leave him.
You can leave. You can leave them, him, her, whoever it is. If they treat you like shit, today's the day I give you permission to go.
I'm 4 weeks post-breakup.
So right.
And I'm feeling really good.
Good. I was going to ask you about your love life.
Go on, ask
you're-
me about my love life.
You're a single Pringle right now.
I'm a single Pringle.
and
I love that. I'm going to use that.
yeah,
Yeah, thank
do.
you.
You
I'm a
don't want to
single
be in that,
Pringle.
in
No,
that
but like I love
long-
that. Yeah, I don't, yeah.
You're all by yourself
Oh,
out
yeah.
there.
Crispy.
Crispy. Now, the last relationship, that one that ended 4 weeks ago, how long did that go for?
A year. It was long distance. So,
and like no details.
I don't care.
How did it end?
It ended like, it was one of those really actually sad situations, which I've never experienced before. I've been through a few breakups where at the end, you both, in the relationship, like we both loved each other so f***ing much, but it felt like we were on this roller coaster where it just was flat out not working. Like we just couldn't seem to meet each other. We couldn't seem to meet each other's needs. No one was right. No one was wrong. Like we weren't angry.
No one did anything
Yeah.
bad.
Like even in the breakup, it's like no one's angry. Even though that you could go into blame and like all that, but like it wasn't like that. It was like we want to be together so badly because we love each other, but this is like we're seriously hurting each other. Like we're seriously both not happy. Like our life, we're not feeling good. We're feeling tired. We're feeling exhausted. This is taking up a lot of our time to try and make this work. And if we truly love each other, we actually need to separate. Like whatever happens in the future happens, but the only way to preserve a connection, the love that we have for each other, whether that transforms into friendship, into like special acquaintances, getting back together, like whatever it transforms into, the only way to preserve that is to separate. Otherwise we will end up hating each other. Like we will end up being enemies. Yeah.
And there's nothing worse.
Yeah.
That's really mature.
Yeah.
It's funny how you have these, kind of breakups in your life. And I say it's a mature thing, but your next breakup may not be like that at all. So but there's an understanding in some breakups that it's just not working. And it's nothing anyone's done. It's just not working. And they can actually hurt way more.
Yeah, because it's confusing.
It's confusing.
Like my breakup before that was honestly one of the most horrendous things I think I've ever been through in my life. I had my ass handed to me and it was easier in a way because I was like, this is so painful and I have no choice. And
but you knew where you stood.
Yeah, I'm like,
how it stood.
and like everything that unraveled, I was like, don't want to be with someone that has the capacity to do that to me. That's so hectic. But like in this, it's like the grief is like, oh, like I like, you know, and it's weird, like when you're grieving, especially when the like nothing hectic happens, you just like remember all the good things. So then you go like, wait, we love each other. Like, why are we breaking up? This was a terrible idea.
And then
like,
you have to relive it again because of it's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah, God. See, and that's where it can be worse. Sometimes if it's like painful, over, heartbreaking, you go through the process.
You have clarity,
and you kind of know what that process is, and you get yourself through it. Your friends get you through it. Your parents know what's happening. They've been through it. But this one is a confusing one because it's like you have actual people around you going, do you think maybe you can make it work?
Yeah.
Like, you guys sound perfect for each other. So isn't it? And then it's like, yeah, but no. So single and happy to be right now.
I am. This is like the first time in a while where I like, not that I'm not like an unhappy single person.
No.
But I feel like definitely it's like the Libra in me. Like my MO is definitely always like, I'm very like hopelessly romantic. I'm always like, is today the day I find the love of my life? It's okay if I don't, but like maybe.
That's such a Libra thing.
Yeah, such a Libra thing. But I'm in this like really content, like happy to be single, not interested in dating, but not in a way of like I'm gonna stay single and like not date, like just in a genuine like, oh, like I feel very like free in my life at the moment, and I feel very like not at a place where I would like, yeah, I just don't, I'm genuinely like not looking or pursuing in a way that feels really different for me, like really like free. Like it feels like that's what I want.
A bit more content of a feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you really start having that relationship with yourself that you've never really given yourself the permission to really get into and start dating. Like it's a beautiful thing, start dating yourself, going out by yourself, and I love that kind of thing. Now, I want to talk to you about your career. You were the very first person to play a non-binary person on Neighbours.
Correct.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Like that's going to be in the history books.
So random. It's so random.
How
when people
wonderful.
like say it in interviews, I'm like, that's so random.
So that was
I guess that was me. Yeah.
2022.
Yeah.
That was during lockdown?
It was like just after. It was like when
After.
like things just started to come about.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. It was like two-pronged because like when I got the job, I was like stoked. Because a lot of the time as well, you audition for things and you're like, I'm not, like, it's not, you never get the call.
Yeah.
So to get the call about you got the job, I was like, what the f***? Okay. And I was super excited and I felt really like one side of me like so honoured to be that person.
Yes.
And that they trusted me to do that and to be able to be that representation for other people. I was someone I didn't come out till I was like 21, despite knowing I was queer when I was super young. And then it's like, the journey I went on with my gender.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Sydney.
Yep.
In Five Dock.
In Five Dock. Okay, Inner West is
Inner West, yes.
And what was that upbringing like? Like what kind of home? Was it a religious home? Was it a private school, public school?
So religious, it's really interesting. So my dad is Irish Catholic. Love him, Dublin man. So our household it's really interesting. It was really, really religious, like when we were younger, like church every Sunday, like prayers, like
Siblings?
multiple times a day. Yeah, I got 3. But it's weird. Like the religion aspect in my home, in my actual house, was actually quite beautiful. Like the way that my dad would kind of interpret scripture to us was so special and something that I still use today as like a moral compass.
What Jesus would do?
Huge. And like his thing was very much like he would say to us kids like almost every night before we'd go to bed, he would go, do you know, like obviously he'd say like I love you, but he'd be like, do you know that like God loves you like so much, blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, yeah, I guess so. I guess so, Dad. And he's like, you know, like you can do no wrong. Like in God's eyes, you were like perfect the way you are, da da da. And then I'd be like, thank you so much.
That's a confidence.
And then he'd go, but God, in this very moment, the infinite amount of love that God has for you, God has the same amount of love for everyone on the planet.
So don't just think it's all about you.
Yeah, and so it also created like this really deep level of empathy as a kid because I would be angry at someone at school and I'd be like, oh, God damn, God loves us both the same.
Wow.
But I feel like I'm right. But
I've never heard of a parent really being like that.
yeah, it was really beautiful and like even like the you know, the Gospels, like Dad really focused more so on like the Gospels in the Bible and like the message of Jesus, which was very, very much like that same thing, that like empathy is kind of like at the heart of it all. And if you think that you're like righteous in any way, then you've gotten God's message wrong. I mean, the whole thing is like Jesus came, like the idea of it, like whether it's, I don't think it's necessarily true, but the story of Jesus was like God sent Jesus here to be like, they are misinterpreting the message, and they're literally like, the church was like super corrupt and would ostracize people from different groups, which could be interpreted in lots of different ways now. And so sent Jesus here to literally be like, get everyone out of the church, like out of the pews, onto the street. Like all the messages, like even like there's that beautiful story of like the sex worker and they're about to stone her to death, and Jesus was like thou who has never sinned, cast the first stone. And everyone was like, oh, that's so embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, the Jesus, I'm not religious and I was brought up non-religious, but I have an amazing book called Jesus for the Non-Religious, and it's such a great read of, you know, like really where he was born, what he did and things like that. Like, and all of the, you know, water to wine and all that stuff, like they're like, yeah, no, that's just a lot of men having daddy problems and making daddy issues and writing stories.
The whole thing is
but
just
the dude was brilliant. Like he was like Gandhi. Like he was just a really peace-loving, mirror up to your face. Like, what are you doing? That is not God. That is not what he wants at all.
It's not spirituality.
So I've always found religion sucks.
Yeah.
But
organised religion sucks.
Jesus is a dude. Like he was someone that I would
He's
be
queer,
so,
man. He would be at all the protests.
attracted
Like
to.
the Christians are going to come for me for this, but I'm like, Jesus was queer. Jesus would have been at all the protests. If Jesus came back now, the church would crucify him again.
Absolutely.
They'd go, not him. Because that's what they did. He said,
well,
look.
just the colour of him they wouldn't want.
Exactly.
And that the fact that we've whitewashed this brown man, like just the fact
and
that
they're
we've
destroying
done that.
the land in which he
was born. I know,
like
all of it. Organised religion
is absurd.
It's the worst.
It's absurd.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But if you take, like your father obviously did, the Gospels, you know, and in Islam, like Jesus was a prophet, and they think he was a great dude as well. Like, but what they've done in Jesus' name
is
he'd be rolling in his grave if he was buried.
Yeah.
Oh, who knows where
Everyone's
he
like,
is.
when's he going to come back?
I go,
he's not coming back. He's
not,
going,
no.
I tried once, you killed me, and it's just gotten worse since I've gone, so I'm not coming back.
No, that's right. And it's funny, all of the things that are going on at the moment, like people hating each other and having a go at each other, and I am guilty of it. Everyone's guilty of it. But when Reuben Kaye was on the project and he had made a Jesus joke, I have never, ever in my life had seen or had towards me vitriol like the extreme Christians. I've never ever experienced anything like it. It was like when I used to work for Channel 7, I used to work on the switch, and every now and then if there was a Saturday night game, football or whatever sport it was, and you wanted to make a shitload of money, you'd do that shift, Saturday night shift, where you're basically just being yelled at because it was a 7-second delay, and, or they were putting up the lotto numbers and they'd missed it. So can you tell me what the lotto, like there was no internet. Oh. So every single Saturday time I would do that. It was whatever. I'd put up with but I never, ever had anyone abuse me like I did the private school boys who used to watch rugby union because something was 7 seconds over. The way they would, because they were the lawyers and the doctors.
They've never been told no in their life.
Never. And they, if I'd been in front of them, they would have physically hurt me.
Probably.
Because if they could have reached through the phone, but I was like a piece of dirt on their shoe, and they were so intelligently articulate in their abuse. It blew my mind. Like and it was the same when I watched the Reuben Kaye stuff and I commented on his post, and I had to maybe a week after have to delete my own comment, which I've never done in my life.
Wow, because it was that intense.
Because it was that intense towards me coming into my DMs, and I was like, I haven't got time for this. To keep blocking and deleting people. They were coming like in their thousands. Yeah. So, and I've never, like, even to this day, like, we're getting the two sides of so many things right now. But I tell you what, they always say the worst people in the world are those white colonial Christians.
They are. Trust me, I've experienced, like, I don't know if, like, I dated the pastor's son of a Hillsong kind of church. So
preacher man.
Yeah. So I tried to pray the gay way in like the most absurd way, and getting an insight into that culture that you just said, it is it's crazy.
Yes.
I was
beyond
like,
what you
I would have
think
like
it's gonna be.
the most ridiculous debates, and I wasn't even like as like I hadn't learnt as much as I have now. I wasn't even fucking out of the closet.
And the fact that you
like,
even try to have a conversation with people that were never ever going to see your side.
You know where I learnt that from though? My dad.
Yeah.
Like he's so good at like. I remember as a kid, like he'd be confronted sometimes with like he got into like there was this one night where I was like, he's gonna get punched in the face. Like he got into and it wasn't even an argument. My dad is like so calm. Like you don't want to argue with him because of probably his Jesus background, because he's so able to like stay calm, stay empathetic, but like he's so intelligent and like absolutely school someone on like being, you know, racist or a bigot or whatever it is. Like, and yeah, there was this one night with a family friend. He was like you could say like white supremacist, and like, yeah, it was the one time I was like, oh, is my dad gonna get clocked? But anyways, my point is, I learnt, I don't know, always amazing at it, but I feel like I had a very good, like, learnt a lot and like observed a lot watching him, and it helps me, I think, in the job that we have as people in the media that also give a shit about things that I think people should give a shit, other people, human rights. But unfortunately in this world, human rights aren't always at the forefront of people's mind, which is insane.
Weird.
So fucking strange.
So weird that's true.
Crazy to not think that other
sentence.
human beings should have a right to live. It's insane. And yeah, and having to have conversations with people that come up against you, it's really hard not to be enraged. But honestly, I feel this sounds ridiculous to full circle it. I feel like my religious background is actually what helps me to be able to like have really constructive conversations with people. I think even like with what's going on at the moment in the world, like you can't do it all the time because I would just send myself crazy. And you can kind of pick up on a vibe. Like there's some people you're so far in what you believe that actually this is maybe not worth my time, which I don't like. That sounds defeatist, but
no, it doesn't. You don't waste your time.
Don't waste it when I can put it into someone else who actually,
right.
you know.
If you're talking to a brick wall, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, because they're just a brick wall.
They're just a brick wall. Some people are so like
It's
indoctrinated into their own beliefs that like you're like, I can't.
Yeah.
But actually taking the time to like, you know what I always do as well, especially on the internet when I want to actually try and like, you know, bridge that gap and have a conversation and like soften someone, is I send like, even like I know maybe it's like people like maybe don't do that, but I send like voice notes to like trolls, like unless they're like, you know, some dude being like you're a fucking I'm like block, delete, like what the f-? You're ugly, okay. But more maybe like usually political stuff where like people come up against me and be like why blah 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 blah. I will send like a voice note and be like, hey, like so nice to yeah. I'm not trying to, you know, I just want like this is where I'm coming from, like da 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 da.
And how does that normally get? What kind of response do you get to that?
I like have had brilliant discussions with people even in recent times going, oh, I didn't know that, or like thank you for taking the time, or like, oh, actually we're not going to see eye to eye, but thank you so much for being like kind about this. Like I just think it's really important. I think it's really what's missing in the world, even within activist spaces. I think sometimes the left can eat itself alive because everyone's yelling at each other, no one's listening, and everyone just wants to cancel everything. And I don't mean that in a like, you know, boomer way of like cancel culture gone too far, but in a non like boomer way, I'm like it sometimes you eat yourself alive to the point where people also tap out and people go, well, I'm not going to actually try and learn because if I get it wrong, I'm going to be cancelled. So I'd rather just say nothing so then I won't be cancelled.
Totally.
And where there's a real like calling out rather than like calling in. And I feel like that's always how I like to reframe. And I think sometimes in the spaces that I occupied, I usually get the most frustrated when I feel like people are just yelling at each other instead of listening and also trying to empathize, because there's usually, especially in the world that we live in, there's a lot of the time there are people, like you said at the beginning of the episode, that are just period, move on, block, delete. Yeah. But a lot of people are just like have had their own experiences of life and their own trauma and their own upbringings. And sometimes people are indoctrinated into systems that like they had no hand in, and like how are they supposed to know? And I do believe that, 90% of human beings, when they know better, they do better. Yeah. And so if you can actually like bridge that gap through having a kind conversation with someone and opening up their eyes a little bit, I think it's so much more powerful than just being like, that person's fucked, these people are fucked. Because like, yeah, there are some people that are just, but I think majority of people aren't. Like,
I couldn't agree more, because, at the end of the day, we're all just humaning.
Yeah.
And we're doing the best we can. And there are a lot of CUNTs out there, but there's a lot more kind people who are just trying to get through life, trying to be the best person and making mistakes as they go and helping each other out. We're here for connection, nothing more. Really, nothing more. That's what we're here for. A lot of people say we're here, to procreate and all that. But that is part of connection, but that's not all of it. The connection is in any way you see fit. Like I said right at the very beginning, like some people don't like to be touched, but there's a connection that they can make. It's all about connecting. And that's why one of the worst things you can do to a human is to isolate them as punishment. The worst thing you can be put through in jail is to go into ISO. It will literally drive you in. They still
do it.
Yeah, I know. It should be a war crime, like a crime. It should be a crime.
I mean,
to
prisons
do that.
should just. We could talk about how
that's
prisons
a whole
are just
other kettle of fish. But we've run out of time. So I just want to say how I'm just so glad I've met you and I know you, and now I can see you in my face right now with me and Sissy right behind you. I am so grateful that you came on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really grateful that you exist.
Oh, I'm grateful that you exist. I adore you.
Thank you. I adore you back.
Thank you.
And I adore your front as well.
Great.
So, and all of the bits about you. Why are you in Melbourne?
I am here because it's Midsummer launch. So I was like, I'm going to come and see my friends and be gay. And then also there's like a pride thing for the Oz Open.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So you're a sporty girl.
Or like, sort of. I think I give sport. My friend Oscar.
Yeah, you do, because you're a runner.
Yeah, so I do a lot of sport. Like, not sport, actually. No, I do a lot of exercise.
Yes, it's very different to sport,
Very
isn't it?
different. I was trying to explain this because my friend Oscar was, yesterday was like to me, oh, like, are you going to go to the, like, why have you not been going to the tennis? I was like, oh, I don't really, like.
Not really into tennis.
I'm not really into it. And he was like, this makes no sense. Every time I'm like, in my mind, you're a sports guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I'm not. He's like, I know, I'm reminded of it, but like, it makes no, like, I look at you and I go, into sport. And I go, not into sport.
I'm running
and he was like,
around the
so
tennis
confusing.
Centre.
Yeah.
I'm
literally dressed like a soccer player today. Like,
oh yeah, go onto my socials because you'll be able to see how Kath is dressed. And I just think I know it's a sporty look, but it's a hot look as well.
Thank you.
I don't know which way you wanted it to go.
That's what we were going for. Like,
good.
Hot sporty.
Hot sporty. Yeah. And just glow colours. I'm just so glad they're back.
Because
I'm an 80s kid who could not wear enough glow colour to, like, any glow colour, to the point where my parents were like, honestly, you could park planes. I was like, I'm okay with that. I'm totally fine with that. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you liked this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things. Oh, and one more thing. Kath has a new podcast.
I do.
And it is called Conversations with Kath. And it's two episodes in. So by the time you hear this, probably be about a couple of more in.
Yeah, go on.
If you haven't already listened to it, please do go and have a listen to it. Follow her on the Instagrams. It's just Kath Ebbs, isn't it?
Yep.
E-double-B-S. And start following and listening to her and send us some love and send me some love. And I love you, and go and do a poo. Bye.
Bye.